We not me hitting my microphone. Hello and welcome back to Push to Talk, the series where I, Lewis, talk about particular topics in and around the gaming sphere to help keep you in the loop. Today I am going to be talking about video game adaptations and how much better they've gotten since the 90s. And I understand I may not be the most qualified for the job as, well, I was born in the grand old year of 2000, but that doesn't actually take away from the fact that I'm actually a massive admirer of video game adaptations in general, and that I've also seen a number of films on this list. But before that, I am obligated to urge you to like the video, subscribe if you want to see more content just like this, and obviously ding dong that notification bell to be notified when we upload next, because we upload videos every single week. Now let the cringe fest commence. These days, we've been blessed with enthralling video game adaptations such as League of Legends with Arcane, and even HBO releasing their own The Last of Us series. But it wasn't always this way. Back in the 90s and early 2000s, it was an extremely different story. They were often poorly made and failed to capture the spirit of the original games. The genre most synonymous with these horrible adaptations is, well, fighting games. No surprise really, as given the technology back then, they were the easiest to adapt. Just make a film about fighting. Bruce Lee had been doing it not even a couple of decades before that. How hard could it be? But as easy as it may seem, filmmakers back then had a hard time translating the elements that made fighting games so popular onto the big screen. They didn't understand the appeal of the genre, and the stories and characters of the games were just poorly adapted. Take the original Street Fighter movie, for example. Now, I'll say that Raul Julia's performance, to me at least, was the highlight of the film.
Of course!
But overall, the acting was poor and the plot was uninspired, to say the least. I mean, if the people making the film even took a minute to play Street Fighter, then they would know that there is a perfectly viable plot there ready to use. But they opted to completely ignore it. So as a standalone film, it was bad, but it wasn't that bad. To some, people just wanted that cheesy action kind of film, but we are looking at it as a video game adaptation. And yeah, it's awful. On the topic of terrible adaptations, how can I not bring up Mortal Kombat?
Get over here!
Now, it's embarrassing how many times I rewatched this film growing up, thinking that it was a really good video game adaptation. Obviously, 22-year-old me begs to differ. In contrast to Street Fighter though, Mortal Kombat actually stayed somewhat true to the original plot of the first game, but the plot kind of took a back seat as nobody really watched Mortal Kombat for its story. We were in it for the action, which at the time I'm sure scratched an itch that we all didn't know we had. In retrospect, yes, the fighting choreography is lackluster to say the least, especially compared to today's standards. But for what it was at the time, we just kind of accepted it. It's like when you reminisce about playing PS2 games and think to yourself, wow, these graphics are so realistic, to then revisit and realize they're just geometric blocks with minimal shading. There are obviously plenty more horrible 90s adaptations such as the King of Fighters, the live-action Tekken movie, the Mario movie with Bob Hoskins, both the live-action and cartoon adaptations of Double Dragon, and the CGI show that was the Donkey Kong Country, The Legend of the Crystal Coconut. But today, things are different. The technology available now is significantly more advanced than it was back in the 90s. With motion capture and CGI, we can create movies that are visually stunning and truly transport audiences into the worlds of their favorite games. Not only that, but filmmakers and studios have a much better understanding of the video game medium today. They understand the importance of staying true to the source material and how to adapt the elements that made the game so successful onto the big screen. We can see recent examples like with the 2021 Mortal Kombat movie, which had a great reception from both critics and audiences, at least compared to its predecessors. The movie not only adapted the fighting mechanics, but also the game's lore, the characters and their motivations, which is a huge improvement over adaptations of the past where fighting was the only thing that mattered and the rest was just filler. In addition to the technical and creative improvements, the video game industry has expanded, from single-player narrative games like The Last of Us to multiplayer online games like League of Legends. All of them have unique stories to tell, characters to develop, and experiences to show. This gives more opportunities for filmmakers to explore different stories and themes that can be adapted, and not just focus on the basic premise of the game. When I think back to the state of video game adaptations back in the 90s, it's hard to believe how far we've come. Back then, the technology just wasn't there to accurately depict the graphics and special effects of many popular video games. The worlds of these games were so immersive and detailed, but the movies could never quite capture the same level of immersion. It's clear that video game adaptations have come a long way since the 90s. We now have the tools and understanding to create great movies based on our favorite games. It's truly an exciting time to be a fan of either movies or video games. And that wraps it up, folks, at least for this week. If you guys have any other topics you would like me to discuss, then feel free to leave a comment down below. And obviously, if you haven't already, if you did enjoy this video, then be sure to like, subscribe if you want to see more content just like this, and obviously ding dong that notification bell to be notified when we upload next, because we upload every single week. Thank you guys for watching. My name's been Lewis from Kakuchopurei, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Ciao for now. There are obviously plenty more and motivations. And that's week for the... That's week? What the f*** do you want about? Man, it's hot. I'm sweating so much right now.